My mama lied. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed.
Work week here at Make It Make Sense Jackson. A lot to talk about today. Election results are in. A lot's happening both nationally and locally, of course. But we always like to start this show just hoping that anyone listening to us did something productive from yesterday to today, no matter how big or how small that was. We also pray that as many of your loved ones that left out came back to you. So as with every show, we like to start with a moment of silence to the reality that some folks didn't come home.
I want to
Go ahead, KP.
you got my fault. I want to give a personal shout out to Zafanaya. My fault if I pronounce your name wrong. That's Sherelle's daughter.
Yes.
That's in the hospital right now.
Yes, a beloved community member that works hard for our community, puts the commander, absolutely. Sherelle, we love you. We're here for you. We've been praying through. We're glad that everything so far has been going well. And we just pray that God continues to hold you and your baby, and the community's praying for you. So great shout out, KP.
Yeah.
Excellent. But how are you doing today, young man?
You know, I gotta come up with a new saying for like the young people that got that old spirit. I know y'all call it old soul, but I want to come up with a new term. I haven't figured it out yet, but that's how I'm feeling right now. I feel like I'm a vet. I'm looking in the mirror and I'm a veteran, but I ain't reached the age yet. You know what I'm saying?
You're here before your time.
Yeah.
You feel like that. Well, no, I think you're right at your time. Time will tell that you're right where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. D, how you doing there, my brother? Everything going good on that side?
Yeah, man, everything looking good so far, man. I can't complain besides these gas prices, man.
These guys, listen. You know we're going to talk about it today because I don't know if you all are watching the national news, but you know the Aramco, who I always say wrong, basically quoted that there are going to be catastrophic consequences for the oil markets if the Hormuz Strait remains blocked. And 7 minutes ago, reports surfaced that the attacks near there on ships began. So, you know, very little as we see this news flow, do we preemptively speak about what it's about to do to us as well, right? Obviously, we more importantly are focusing on the loss of life that happens in such a heavy rate, especially when you just bomb, you know, as a campaign. But, you know, you also have to look at the effect here in the United States and what you're going to look at based on a president that felt the need to go to war against the will of a lot of people in this country. So that you're absolutely right. That those gas prices are going to cause a big difference. And I think it's not just the gas doesn't just affect you.
I was just about to say, is it gonna be more than gas? Is it gonna be?
But I think first you have to understand how much gas plays into what we get. If a truck driver comes to you, he's using gas. An airplane, some level, they're using fuel. I mean, all these things that get commerce to you with gas, those are all going to be affected along with you putting gas in your pocket.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that's going to affect the restaurants and the places that you drive to when you put those gas in that gas in your pocket.
So like Lyft and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You know, my generation, we good with the Lyft and the DoorDash and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. DoorDash, excellent point. I got to use more gas now to get to you.
It's gonna cost more. It's gonna cost you more.
That's right. It's going to cost more. It's going to cost you more. This is the cost of war. It's very lucrative to some, just not generally to the citizens that in America, we've often opposed these great wars, Vietnam, other wars that cause catastrophic results throughout the regions. And we paid for it, both in being ignored as a country, in a democratic country, quote unquote, both being ignored, the will of the people, and then having to suffer the consequences, while those that declare war often benefit from it financially. So
it's almost like it's a bigger problem than what they making it seem like.
Yeah.
This could turn into a world war. So I hate to say it like that, but it's a reality. So I mean, it's bigger than you can imagine already. Because as of 7 minutes ago, they just started messing with the money.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's how the other world wars started. It was mostly like
Our recent wars, at least.
I mean, I don't know that the war was
and at the bottom of most of it. So.
Absolutely. I don't know a war that America's fought that wasn't related to some type of money or wealth. I mean, you may have wars in other countries that have erupted over, some type of personal feeling, but I don't think in that 601-948-5950. This last day of the week is always your day to call in and throw any news up that you want to talk about. But yeah, I don't know of any war that has been over. We often talk about the Civil War, right? And as we talk about, remember we were talking about the heavy amount of people that voted in the elections, right?
Yep.
You got a lot of people that came out and voted in this most recent election here in Mississippi, especially. So, when you talk about wars like the Civil War, a lot of times you got to realize those wars still were related to money, It was related to the expansion of slavery, which the 3/5 representation in for each slave you owned, right? Or enslaved person you owned. And one side growing too big versus the other side, right? And claiming too much of the bounty of the open land of America that was there to be profited off of. So that a lot of wars that you see are over money, but this one definitely seems to be regime change and somehow money's connected. But yeah, we're definitely going to pay a price, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of money, this I want to continue to talk about this bribery case with the previous mayor and the city council member and it's Jody was the DA, not DA.
The district attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
So I found out that Judge Jordan, they haven't moved the case to Oxford yet, but they're talking about doing it, and because they feel like it's biased in Jackson because too many people know the DA and the previous mayor and the city council member, and they want to have more of his eyes and him being innocent because of his bias. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, you have and I was talking to some community members about this earlier.
My thing is, I
no.
My thing about it is, nobody has took enough for none of them yet though in Jackson. So what y'all so worried about? Nobody has stood up for none of them dudes. No, I mean it's a little amount of people that have done it, but compared to what how big y'all making it, it ain't what y'all making it as. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody. If Big Choke was here right now, he'd be probably swinging on all y'all. I'm sorry to say that, but a lot of y'all would have got stolen on. Because a lot of y'all leaving his son in a bad way. I'm sorry. I don't.
No, don't. It's not something to apologize for. I brought it up, and you're right to rewind it back. And I'm sorry to cut you. You ain't cut me. I cut you off. And that's what I like is when you bring the ideas that you want to bring in. And I'm listen. I'll say this here, and this is very clear here in Jackson, Mississippi, and in Hinds County, where they're trying to move the case out of. Right. When you look at the practice of what we call legal lynching, right? A lot of people just yell that word out right now anytime something happens that they don't like, right? And it diminishes the actual history of what that was, right? And the ways that it would unfold would be where there was one jurisdiction where a sheriff was holding the person, the African-American person accused, and protecting them, and they knew in that area, right? Let's just say Hinds County as an example. We're going to just make this up, right? Let's say Hinds County, they know they're not going to allow you to lynch this person, right? So their practice in Mississippi and Texas and up would be to then send a mob to that jail, right? Drag that person out of that jail, and then take them to a county where they knew that they'd be able to kill that person, that African-American person, without any retribution from the law, right? So what we all, African-American, let me keep this slow. African-American historians in our major schools here will all agree, from Jackson to Tougaloo to Alcorn to Valley State, just keeping it close. Go all the way to Morehouse, we can jump to Atlanta if you want to. We'll all agree that, okay, well, once they could no longer oppress you in that way legally, put a rope around your neck and hang up, anti-lynching laws went into effect. They began to find ways to then, quote, legal lynch you, which would be to get a jury to agree to sentence you to death for something everyone knew you didn't do, and so forth. So what we're seeing today, every African-American and most likely every Caucasian resident in Hinds County knows exactly why they want the case to go to. And no, they all don't. You have a lot of brainwashed people on some of these comments that really believe everything they read on Jackson Jambalaya, right? And on a lot of these sites of people that just hate on any African-American representative of Jackson, right? But the majority of people fully understand, even if they want to see him convicted, they understand why they want to bring him to Oxford. So even if it's the white folks that's like, yeah, bring him here, they know why they want to get him to Oxford. Yeah. The ones dragging the black person out of the jail to lynch them knew why they were dragging him out and going to a different place so they can lynch him. Because if they believed he was going to get, that the justice system was going to be enough for them, they would have let him stay right where he was. What about Hines County and a mayor that lost an election where only 18% of the people voted? Indicates that these people cannot have a fair and balanced outlook on the trial.
Say it one more time.
What about Hines County, a county where the previous mayor, Chokwe Lumumba, lost an election in which only 18 to 19% of the population voted?
I don't think that's an issue of the moon or whatever. I think that's an indictment on black people.
Of course it's an indictment. No, we know exactly what it is. It's not just an indictment on black people. It's a practice that they've done regularly.
We've seen it too many times.
I'm just going to send in the squad to pull you out of there because you've got too much representation. Thank you for just fast forwarding us to the end. You've got too much representation in Hines County. You have too many educated black people. You have too many lawyers. You have too many people that understand the methods of which we got information are not legal. You got too many people that understand some of this is not true. We need to go to good Oxford where they understand, string them up. And I'm sorry to say that, but if it's not that Oxford, you got to show us that because they sure are biting at the bit to get them to you for absolutely zero reason. And I want you to remember, as we ground this, go Google when was the last time a prosecution in a major case asked for a change of venue. When they beat up Rodney King, because they knew that the only place they could get a free or a not guilty verdict for those officers was in a cop city, and that's where they took it, to a city completely inhabited by police officers. Go back and look it up. And that's the last time the prosecution asked in the recent future. And for Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber. Okay. Hines County, they're telling you that you cannot have a fair and balanced outlook on another black person in Mississippi like you've been the problem historically with oppressing and hurting black people. Hines County has been the problem in Mississippi, so we need to get it out of Hines County and get it to Oxford where we don't have the same racial tensions as we've got with those racist people in Hines County, because that's the only reason you ever move the venue. You've got a problem with the people that are there, and people are just sitting by the cage. To the young man's point, y'all are just sitting by those that consider themselves leaders, not speaking up. You ain't got to speak to the guilt or innocence. Let it play out in front of us, the same people that you claimed were transgressed against. When a mayor of Jackson, a DA of Jackson, a councilman of Jackson, it happened in Jackson, but those Negroes don't know how to do the right thing. When I first started talking to people when the election started heating up, older people would say things like this to me here in Jackson. I know people have heard it. There's no problem me repeating this. Jackson will get right when we vote right. Not like telling people to do it, just throwing their hands up saying, well, when is it going to get better? It's going to get better when we vote right. And I say, well, what does that mean? Because I'm going to ask you. When we vote, either someone connected with the white power establishment or someone is white back in. And these are 85, 95-year-old people, 5, 6 years, just desolated. We know what it's going to be. And then you want to reject that as a younger person, right? Well, no, we just got to. And then you start to look around and realize, well, the moment somebody came into office that was willing to acquiesce to the things that the power structure wanted, we started to get little handouts. Not for our parts of the city, of course, but the city in whole. Now you get councilmen talking about we. Reminds me of Malcolm X when they say our military. When he gave that speech in which he clowned folks for saying at that time, our military, and you're not even allowed on the military base because of segregation. You're saying our government and you can't even run for an office.
We sick, boss.
So he said we sick, boss. So we hear our city council talking about we're starting to close the economic gaps in our city. Yeah, for who? For who? You're closing a gap by creating things that can't be used by the average Jacksonian. How is that a plus? You got to make that make sense to me. I'll leave it there, but it's more national news, but I don't understand how that's a plus for you to create avenues of commerce for everybody except the average Jacksonian and call that progress. Yeah, if I sell my house to 20 people that are all going to be the ones that get to use my house, yes, my mortgage is going to be paid every month. Yes, on paper, my bills look great. My family can't use any of my house. All they have is a little bathroom in the kitchen that they get to use because I done rented out every room in my house to pay the mortgage. That's what's happening in Jackson to me right now, me personally. It's like somebody took the whole house and rented out every room and the money's flowing in. It's just not flowing in a way that benefits the people that live in that house. They just losing space everywhere they turn. There's something else we can't afford or can't go to. Something else that we can't afford to rent at. Next thing you know, Piggly Wiggly would be a different store we can't afford to go to. It's happening as we speak, but the point that KP brought up, and I think that I'm going to stand behind that as we move to the next headline, is that nobody's saying anything about it. None of these things. In Mississippi 2026, you're trying to drag a black man into a different jurisdiction to get a whiter response.
And for you to sit there and think it's not gonna happen to you, it's diabolical.
That's a good point.
For you to think that there ain't gonna be you one day, you know what I'm saying? It puts you to be with them or or against. And if you're against them, you already know that they coming for you regardless of what you, even if you would. So at least have some fight in you, knowing that either way route you take, they're gonna put their foot on y'all head. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You gonna would you rather lose with your jersey on or theirs?
Mm-hmm. That's and yeah, man, that's the part that, when folks say to us, we're so pro utilizing the vote that people died for, bled for, that it would amaze you. We're just not pro wasting the vote that people died for and bled for, and folks that don't deserve it aren't doing anything to maintain it and have not gained not one iota of progress since those giants that gave us a reason to vote by dying for it died, right? And I think that that's the point we have to look at, right? When we talk about the vote and when we say, well, if we don't elect somebody, right, then we're in trouble because the racist nature of Mississippi is going to leave us in the cold. But we've been in the cold in a lot of communities for 40-something years. Things have been happening to us, not for us, for 40-something years in the Black community. Certain portions, which are larger portions of the Black community, things have been happening to us and not for us, right? Those Black folks that got into the positions of power then looked down and said, well, these are the things that would help you all. And those things look like Planned Parenthood and Super Predator Bill and truth in sentencing and allowing folks on their right side to create such vicious laws that there's no way the Black family would ever recover in certain situations, right? Once one of their young ones tried something and sell $10 worth of a drug, made a mistake 2 times, the penalties were so severe, you had to understand the long-term effects that would have on these communities. So these have been those that have led us. And what we've got to do as a community is start to understand that our vote matters so much we cannot continue to waste it on folks that look like us but do nothing for us. That is such an insult. And that's why you'll never back me down anywhere. And most people don't. My conversations are very fluid today here. But you'll never back me down from saying that you will never tell me that the reason you should vote for somebody is so that somebody else doesn't do you wrong. And on every aisle, you see Benny Thompson had been in office for a long time. You saw people running up against him. On either, I talk about holding people accountable that are in office, and I also talk about folks that only running off of, I don't like him, I'm better than him. How is that a platform? Flip those coins either way. How is that a platform? He's been there too long. You should vote me in. I'm getting sick of all these platforms that disrespect us as a people. Every side, whether you've been there and you can't show what you've done for it, or whether you've come in and you didn't give us one iota of a real platform to fight this misery we're dealing with as a people in Mississippi, from an economic standpoint, from a healthcare standpoint, right, from a family and community standpoint. You just come in and point the finger at the other person. And we're waiting for it. Okay, but you're saying that wasn't, well, where's your plan? Nobody's got a plan for us. Everyone's plan is us. If you just vote for me, I got you. We're their whole plan. Without us, they have nothing. And we continue to give them the platform to be something. And then they look down at us and tell us, you all are nothing because you're not voting the way we asked you to vote. But you all are everything. They're nothing. If you can't accomplish something, then you got to move yourself out the way and let someone step in that can. Yep. This fear mongering has got to stop in our community because we're not getting anywhere with it. We're not advancing. I don't think anyone in the community thinks we are. And so every election is a beautiful time. I mean, I knew as we talked about it that we wouldn't get too many calls to come on and speak about the election and folks to come on a platform, even though I don't really for the life of me understand why anyone thinks that we're a dangerous platform for voters. When all we talked about from the beginning, from segregation to sabotage, we've talked about how the vote is played with. We talk about how folks don't get the proper information to vote. Yeah. So when folks
can't ask the proper question, don't know how to ask the question right.
Maybe that's what we start getting into, young man, and it starts to get a little different, right? Because you have to understand what these folks are doing with the power to continue to make the right decisions about the power.
Exactly.
And I think to your point, that's where it starts to get hairy. So, our standpoint doesn't change. As you look down to the bottom of the screen, if you're watching us on Facebook, sorry to my folks that are just listening on the radio, if you get to a point where you can jump online, jump on Facebook, jump on YouTube, we try to put a lot more on the screen there to share with you so that you can know everything that we're talking about. So if you're watching there, look down at the bottom of the screen at the election outcomes. We'll talk a little bit more about it after this call.
Welcome to Make Sense, Kyle. You on there? Hello? You're there, caller.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Welcome to Make It Make Sense. You're on the air.
How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing today, sister?
I'm doing well. I was driving and listening to you, and I just want to say this, I believe, to the last point that you made.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm over half a century, so I do know a little something.
Absolutely.
What I have seen, and I can agree, is people want to get in these offices and positions not for the right reason and not for the people that put them in there. And I am a person, you got to show me something. What's on your record? What have you done that leads you up to wanting to hold this office?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Because, as you said, many get in for personal reasons just to say I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get in because they got a vendetta against somebody, and if they're in a position to help them, they will help them because of personal reasons. And a lot of what I've seen over the years, we talk about them, and you know what I'm talking about,
Yes, ma'am.
but it's us. It's us. We don't do what we need to do, especially when we're in a position to make a difference or try to make a difference or do things to make things better. Then when we do have a person that's willing to put themselves out there and try to meet a need and service the community with things that they need, we don't get the support.
It's true too.
That's true.
They'll be the first one talking about it. I heard it over here. We need this. We need that. We need a change. We need somebody. When that person sticks themselves out there, then they don't have the backup that they need. And then when running for these offices, you already know, or you should know, that you're coming in on some things that really need to be priority that you're going to focus on when you get in that position.
That's right.
But a lot of times we come in overlooking that, doesn't focus on what priority. They just focus on what I want to do and what I want to make a change. And we know change does not happen overnight.
It does not.
It's a process.
That's right.
I believe you have to go in. If you're going to do something, you need to go in with your mind on what's already on the table that takes priority for me to start working on.
That's right. Yes, ma'am. Well, we appreciate you. We agree with you 100%. We got to start that log, I believe, of looking at what folks have done and what they haven't done. And it's not a negative thing. We want the vote. We just feel that the vote for the wrong person can hurt you sometimes more than no vote or a vote for the right person. And that is not an ignorant reach for people not to vote. That's just an understanding that if you apply the wrong medicine, it can kill you. If you apply the right medicine, it can help you. But you got to understand what you're applying in either scenario. And here in Mississippi, we are doing a much better job as a community of understanding the back dealings that lead to a person getting here. It doesn't matter if we're talking about their political connections, their church connections. You shouldn't have friends that deep. You shouldn't have friends that deep that hurt people that are in your community, number one. And number two, we've got to have more adults like yourself, when you talk about half a century, like myself, that are willing to risk. And I always say this, but this comes from family members that are in this life that say this, that are willing to risk that burial plot, or risk getting to use that meeting spot, or risk getting a mention in the newspaper in their local city, or risk their child not going to that dance because they're standing up against somebody that's doing something in the community that doesn't benefit the community. So we just need more people willing to not hurt you, but just say, do the right thing by us.
Yes, and you know, back in the day, I think I was about 12 years old when we had the Freedom Riders and you know, all those things. And we needed things in our community. We needed upgrades, if I want to say, or we needed advancement. And the Freedom Riders and the people in the community that realized we can have better, we can do better, they came together, and number one, they prayed. They came together, and then things began to happen. Our streets began to be paved. We began to get indoor bathrooms and better homes, brick homes, and all of that. But the main thing was they were on one accord, knowing that we needed it, and it was going to be beneficial to us, but upgrade us in a sense, and it happened.
Yes, ma'am.
And so now I know we got a lot of groups that come together and have a meeting when something happens. And then they say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, And after the meeting, you don't see anything now, mister.
That's
But
right.
I do know what I'm talking about.
That's right.
I'm tired of going to meetings, whether it's political, whether it's church, whether it's community, and there's a lot of talk. There's no follow-up. There's no action to anything that was discussed in the meeting. And I said sometimes maybe I'm the only elephant in the room, but I know what I say. I know what I'm talking about.
We need some more elephants in the room. We definitely don't need you to lead the room. We need more elephants in the room to shake things up because you're 100% correct. You know, we've got to at a certain point look at and see you having that half a century, the wisdom, you know, those politicians that all came together there were moving towards a common good. If you can't speak briefly on what do you think the impact is of the fact that, and I'm a child that studied that, grew up in, they had to live amongst the people. What do you think the difference is in that when you were young, they had to eat with you, they had to go to school with you, they had to live with you, and now they can do what they want to us and run to Madison or run to any other area and live, so they actually don't have to be around us anymore. What do you think the impact of that has been?
It's so much. You know, I sometimes in my mind I'm thinking and I'm looking. I have eyes to see, and I if I could go to scripture, I think about scripture that talks about Jesus when he went about in the cities and in the villages. And he was in the synagogue sometimes. But in the cities and the villages, he said he was moved along with compassion. That means when he saw something that there was a need, he did all he could to supply that need to make things better.
Such a simple.
And we're not focused on what can be better. We're caught up in materialism and gain for ourselves, but we're not thinking family. We're not thinking community and what can be done. We're not going to be around always, just like our forerunners.
That's right.
And the descendants that gone on before us. But many of them did leave a mark. And I believe that there's too much focus on what was and what they did versus what we know we can do with our knowledge and our gifting and what we know is in our hands. And we need to put into action.
That's right.
But you got to get with somebody, mister, who's willing to stand.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, and if we could develop a team mentality, that means together, each one achieves more together.
That's right. We all push down at the same time.
You know, because each person that comes to the table on the team, they bring something that's very vital and significant. But
That's right.
We have to be able to be mature enough to accept that person that may come with 20 years of experience.
Yeah, we've got to do something different. No, listen, sister, I appreciate you more than you know. Please keep listening to us, but I just appreciate your stance because I agree with you 100%. But thank you for listening and thank you for sharing with us. One final statement before we go to the next call. What would you like to leave us with?
What you say now?
I said leave us, if you want to leave us with one statement, one piece of advice for your community, what would you leave us with before we take another call?
Okay, I will say this. Together is better, and when there's unity, there is strength.
That's right. Thank you so much for listening. You keep staying with us, and we're going to keep working towards that. Together is better, and where there is unity, there is strength. We lost the other caller. Call back if you can, and I'm sorry. And I'm not sorry at all. That when you get that wisdom on them, and when you get someone that can speak to you about the way it was and has been pushing in their own individual life and recognizing that's value you just have got to soak up. And one of the things that she spoke about, and thank you, my sister, it just brought something in my mind. And I pulled up the key obstacles, KP, or the differences in the things that they faced then and what they face now, right? So when you talk about because this sister was talking about being 12 when the Freedom Riders, were being abused. So when I looked up, can you see that? Read some of those. What did they face? What did the politicians, the Black leaders, Black community organizers, what did they face as their obstacles during the Freedom Rides, KP?
You got your violence from mobs, immediate arrest by local authorities, harsh imprisonment at Parchment, psychological intimidation by prison guards, isolation from the outside world.
So just let that settle, that those were the things that the general society in Mississippi faces now on a regular basis, right? For whatever reason, but that is something that how many of our politicians leaders, imams, preachers, community. How many of the, well, I know some of the community organizations that face that, they try to lock them up every day. But how many of the other sectors that I talked about face violence from mobs, immediate arrest by local authorities for trying to lead us in Mississippi, harsh imprisonment at Parchment? And I'm not saying they should, I'm saying look at it. Now they no longer have to deal with what they allow happen to us. And I personally think that that's been the break in progress in our communities. The moment our leaders no longer had to deal with the realities of the decisions that they made that affected us, they began to change. When you could take now, you could take political contributions that allowed you to run your office well. You got all of these different benefits that your family got. Now you could go live in a place that African Americans predominantly could not come to and still make the decisions that you made. We see it on all these little shows that are on TV, you know, little rich black enclaves, and you making all these decisions as DAs and as judges, and you sipping some whiskey, talking about you like you some, well, they've got to learn. What? The only reason you're making these decisions is because your son and your daughter have no chance of having to interact with the outcome of these decisions. Not the children facing them or them going through it themselves. So I think personally, we need to take a close look at electing people that don't reside, live, work towards just something that has to do with that community. You got to at least want what that community wants, be aware of it, of what they're aware of, have some connection outside of where you were born and the color of your skin. Then you didn't control where you were born. How is that a strike for you? The first thing you say, I was born right here, and people love that, as do I, because that means you have history, but what did you do with that history? I need to hear a little more. So should you. Did you use that history to swindle people for 30 years? Or did you use that history to advance your people for 30 years? But you just being there should not exempt you from being asked what you've done for us. And I personally think, and I'd love to hear, I repeat the number enough, 601-948-5950. You can jump on Facebook and comment. Shout out to Chattanooga. Shout out Melman. How you doing there, my brother? You know, it definitely is a situation where we're turning a corner, you all. We as a community didn't do that talk just to sit there and watch folks do what they're doing to us, you know? We've got to start to demand things of these people we put in office.
Yes.
Yeah. That I hope you understand. We're going to look at some other stories, but that's the root of that. We've just started. Yeah, what'd you say?
So that's where we are right now.
Yeah, that's where we are right now. We've got to start to demand. We're not mad at anyone that got in office. Understand, you did the first step that our ancestors died for. And if you thought we were that type of show, please listen to us carefully, because the main reason people want you to think that is they don't want you to hear what's coming after. That togetherness, that push.
It's about the desensitized people that don't understand some of this stuff. Like I see a lot of new, just like the water situation, where people that take that seriously first, and then all these people jumping out the blue. What's going on with our water? What's going on with our water?
Very good point. I'll take it.
Well, that makes sense. Call you on air.
Thank you very much. I heard the sister just speaking earlier.
Yes, sir.
Another thing, I like to say this. You know, we were raised to believe to keep our eyes on the prize. The generations in between us and my generation seem not to know what the prize actually was. The prize is, and should and have been, not for me individually, just to make it. If I have to make it on the back of us, the prize was to make it for all of us, as members as possible. The strategy that they use to separate us from each other because of us getting reinforcement, which is what we needed. Yeah. We needed reinforcement as the older generation dialogue became weak from the struggle. We don't have that because, first of all, we're not able to teach the curriculum to our students that they need to be taught in order to survive and to strive and to advance. And so all of that, they made it possible for us to keep our home, teach our own, and it made it more possible for them to teach theirs, what they need to do, because of their private school, their private academies, and the fact that they made sure that we don't have relevant people in administrative positions in the schools where their kids attend. I thank you, brother.
Thank you for listening, brother, and keep sticking with us. Thank you much, and a wonderful point. But I think, what do you think about that, KP? I think he makes a great point.
Yeah, well, he said the stuff not being taught in the schools. I heard that part for the most part.
I mean, I think that, and he can correct me. I think we was talking about was the betrayal of a sorts in terms of, and I definitely think there was a betrayal of the values. And Eyes on the Prize, if you're not as familiar with it, just Google Eyes on the Prize. It's a series that will help you understand the spirit of when he made the comment. I mean, the comment is not the series, but it was a series as well that just talked about the struggles, in the South and beyond for civil rights here in America. But the togetherness that they called for back then, he was just talking about the difference in the way we pushed then and in the way we push now. And I think he makes an excellent point, and this is a place where we hope to bridge the generations, right? So, I think that when you say that, my brother, I think that your generation has to look as does mine. And I think my generation has to be there as well. But so that class you're talking about worked to end legal segregation. They worked to secure voting rights. They worked for access to education. They worked for basic human dignity. They worked for protection from violence. And a lot of them risked their lives to do that. And that's the callers, the last two callers that called in. The young lady that said she was 12, my sister, when the Freedom Rise happened. That's what their generation of leaders did. Now, all we need to do to look at, in order to get right here, my people, is to figure out who protected those things and who didn't once it happened. Which one of our leaders protected that legal segregation end by making sure that Black folks were in positions to earn and to have the financial impact we needed to have to make sure legal segregation would not come back without being on the books, where you now see folks separated by finances, separated by other oppressive methods, redlining and so forth, securing voting rights. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but right now I feel like we're in one of the biggest fights for our voting rights here in Mississippi since we got them in 65. And please, 601-948-5950. Yes, I'm a radio host, so we don't have to be like professors, but correct me if I'm wrong. No, all over. I'm sorry. I just was focused because that's what a lot of the information I look at is. But I think all over that's the same case, that we're in the worst case we've been in, especially in the Deep South, in the South. We're in the worst place we've been in since we won voting rights in 65 right now.
Yep.
And remember, let's go back to the components that generation of the brother and sister that just called in. When they complain there's been a betrayal, they're not lying. They watched their leaders fight for these things, but no one protected them for the next 40 years. Instead, they just benefited from the gains of being able to be the Black in the room. A lot of people. And to the sister's point, the ones that did stand on business didn't receive the support they needed from their peers in politics, and therefore weren't able to make the imprint that they wanted to make. So ending legal segregation is what the forefathers fought for, recent forefathers, right? Securing voting rights. We just talked about voting rights being at its worst leg, right? Access to education. Here in Jackson, 17 schools shut down, the whole Mississippi public school system under attack by vouchers. Governor Tate has just agreed in premise to reconvene again to try to get this voucher thing through and see if we can bleed the public school system of some more resources.
You're trying hard.
They're trying hard. That what Holzman said, I look at hundreds of millions flowing out of the public school system. So that's their own side saying that.
Do charter schools have the same curriculum as like a public school?
They don't have
Oh, you got charter schools using Tennessee's curriculum. That's how, and you've got charter schools in Mississippi using Tennessee's curriculum, from what parents have told me.
That's horrible.
It's not even Mississippi's curriculum. And you're not making the grades because you don't have the same oversight.
It's like that they're biased and it's for a certain demographic of people.
Yes, but guess what? We've got a sister sitting on the, this is what it looks like to hold your people accountable in every era. We've got a sister sitting on the Mississippi Charter Authorization Board that's a Democrat, I believe, I may be wrong, that should have some alliance to our party. Reach out to her and find out what's happening. Why these schools don't have to use the same guidelines. Why we can't have more out of everything. Why do we get a few charter schools with covered windows and the private white institutions get to build new wings off of the money? It's just so uneven. But to the sister's point, let's look at who's there representing us. Who's supposed to have represented us to get to some of these things is the key.
Well, gonna make it make sense. Call Leon Average.
Hello, sir. It's me calling you.
Yes, ma'am. I knew you got the platform.
I'm not gonna stay too long, but when you said that about education, I was in a meeting some years ago down at the Capitol, and I believe it was, and they were talking about the school system and the curriculum. And I asked the question, what has happened in the school system that now the schools can't supply anything that the children need? They have no bands, they have things that I had when I was coming to school.
Yeah.
And the parents now are having to spend money on everything. School can't supply try anything. They want the events and a certain kind of curriculum, and the parents are having to buy everything to make sure the children can be involved.
Yeah.
And then here's the other thing, and it's the truth, and maybe somebody don't want to hear it.
Uh-oh.
A lot of the teachers that in the school system now, they don't stress enough about the importance of education, the basic things. And then the parents are not as interested as they were in my time, and even when I was raising my own children. We were involved because we know the importance of education.
Absolutely. I think that those are all excellent points. You know, on our show, you'll get some questions that follow up from the if you want to address it very quickly from the audience, which just says we're trying to look at where those breaks came, because I think everyone agrees with you. We all had grandparents. We all knew what it was like. So we all agree that this is not the way it was. But we also got to look at where we went wrong so we can figure out where we went right. And to your point earlier, I think that if we just have the courage, I'm going to stick on this point for just to vet the people that are supposed to be leading us. If the racism is only giving us $10 out of the 100, let's see where that $10 is going first. Let's see what we can do with that, and then we'll move on from there. Because you've already got folks trying to hold them accountable. We need folks holding ourselves accountable. And whenever we say that, we tend to turn to kids. Oh, these kids, okay, I get that. But if you're asking kids to put down guns in the middle of gunfights and be courageous, then for the love of God, some of these adults got to show some courage as well and stand up for people that aren't leading us.
And then if you think about it too, back in the days when children just got irate and wouldn't abide by the rules of the house, with disrespected parents and everything, there was a place to send them to help train them in the way that they should go. You know, but nowadays, you know, and I'll say this, sir, some of this stuff that's happening in our community with our children, we created it. And I'm saying as a majority, we created it because we didn't want to do, not me, we didn't want to do to them what was done to us from our parents when we were growing up. And so now you have a group of children that feel so entitled, they're disrespectful, they feel like they don't have to take out trash, they don't have to do anything but sit and play games.
That's fine. But if they can sit and play games, unfortunately, that's a different genre. And you're right about that genre is there. What we need to pay attention to simultaneously, however, is the fact that we can't jump this. I want you to respond to this. We can't jump the horse there, because that's what cuts the trust of the 13-year-old that's sitting there with no one to help them, and he hears you, right? And he says, okay, you're right, Grandma. I hear you, Uncle. I hear you. But you're not going to talk about how we got there, right? The fact that those leaders, instead of looking for ways to infuse our children with hope, decided to introduce a super predator bill that called their own children super predator, whether it was Charles Rangel, whether it was somebody here, they all voted on it. So at a certain point, these young people are going to call us names, are going to curse at us. And let me tell you, the same way I stand up for you all, I'm going to stand up for those children. God says you try to fight evil the best you can. And when you've been raised in a household where perhaps you've only heard the language Emma F you, and you've only seen violence, and you see these adults telling you, you kids are the problem, they're supposed to respond to you with that. Because they know they've never received love. How would they show it? Your policies haven't allowed them to receive love. Instead, it said lock them up, create a school-to-prison pipeline. This accountability you're calling for in these parents is lovely, but for the love of God, you had politicians for 40 years since Dr. King's era that have sat in office and did not stop one bit of pain, one bit of molestation, kids getting raped at these AAU and BBU camps and getting passed over to these white coaches. We all know what's really been happening and why they're angry and out of control. Fathers ripped out the home, but when our elders get on the phone, this comes from our youth, my sister. They say, well, we hear the elders talking about what we're doing, but for the love of God, they don't have that same energy for these politicians that have sat there for 40 years and can only tell you what Dr. King did or what Obama did, but can't tell you one thing they did for these babies.
You're right about it.
I mean, we would love to hear your response to them too, no matter whose side you're on. What is your advice to them? Because these babies are looking for everyone to be held accountable, even if you don't agree with them.
What I would say to that is, as an adult, you're a politician.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
What needs to be said to the politicians?
Yes, ma'am.
What needs to be said to the politicians? Either you're gonna get in there and do something about what you said, no, do what you said you were gonna do, and get in a position instead of talking, put some action to your talk.
That's right. That's right. I got one coming in behind you, ma'am. You become one of my favorite calls, so thank you so much. I'm going to take that other call, but keep listening. Thank you, sister.
Welcome to Make It Make Sense, call. You on there?
Thanks for someone called again. I'll be very brief. There's something we can do immediately, and that is to make sure we get that lady out of the Congress in the Senate that Trump himself said she is 1,000% loyal to him. And I cannot believe they would post such mad, on the world. That a man tell us to put a person back in the Senate.
Uh-huh.
Who's 1,000% loyal to him.
You talking about Cindy Hyde-Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, you talking about the same person that you had City of Jackson employees that led departments sitting in the parking lot calling her and telling her everything that was happening in Jackson. That's Cindy Hyde-Smith, yeah. Yeah, we should have got angry at her and the connections with her a long time ago, but I'm with you, my brother. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying that we got someone.
Yeah, let's find out if that call is coming from inside the house. Yes, sir.
And I can dig it down deeper if I had time to speak specifically about some of the things they have done to us. They've done through music, movies, ads and things that they run. You see a lot of blacks in the background on the advertising day.
That's right.
It makes people think that, hey, everything is so kind and dandy cool for us. But those people are there for a moment. And the amount of money they pay those who are in the background compared to those who have speaking orders on those conversing ads, it's a world of difference between what they make.
Absolutely, my brother. Let me interject there. And I always say this. That's the point we need to stop on. Because that's when good men are silent, when good people are silent, evil flourishes. So when those names start coming out, my brother, that's when folks, and I know what this is like, when folks say, no, I won't take your huge check every year to turn my other cheek, and that's when things will start to change. So when our callers come online and say, you know what, Tariq Abdul-Tawwab should have done A and he's doing B, and if he stops doing B right now, we'll be a little better off, my brother. I think we'll start to grow.
Absolutely. We have power. We need to exercise the power that we have.
That's right, my brother.
Wisely. Don't just go and vote. Don't just vote away from somebody who has a chance and make that person who has the chance spend more money.
Well, even bigger than that, make sure that person that has a chance is going to do the job. Forget making them spend money. Forget worrying about their comfort level. Forget worrying about their success. Let's make sure the person that's going to win is going to do something for us. How about that in 2026? In 2026, my people, let's worry about one thing that we lead with. Let's lead every single conversation about our politicians with what have you done for us and what are you going to do for us? Not how much you got to spend, not whether this hurt you across the aisle, because our current mayor told us one of the main benefits he was bringing to us was his ability to work across the aisle. Blossom apartment residents found out very quickly that that ability did not extend to everyone in Jackson. So we need to start holding folks accountable for what you're going to do for me. Any final words, my brother? We got one more behind you. Any final words before I jump there?
I know from experience of observation that Strike alone is a man who is very, very transparent and he has integrity. If he say he's going to do it.
Yeah, we've gotten plenty of his ads, sir, and I don't think that's what's hurting us as an ad. I don't think the lack of having an advertisement for a political person is hurting us, my brother. Because there's plenty of people that agree with you because he made it. I'm not cutting you down. A lot of people agree with you because he won. So what we need to look at is where are those folks, and I'm going to take this call, brother, and I appreciate you. But what we need to look at, my people, is where are these people at that keep opening the door for the city of Jackson, the city of Greensville, the Delta, the different parts where we populate to not win. So I agree with you. I think the people agree with you on the Cologne on that level. Not I agree with you. I think they agree with you, and that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what I think, and you'll very rarely hear me ever give you a political opinion, because my political opinion is get people in there that are going to do something for us. And none of them have proven that, so I don't have an opinion about any of them yet, except the ones, to the sister's point, who just don't receive the support they need. The caller that we lost, call us back in, please. We've got a few more minutes to take calls. But yeah, I think that, you know, what folks are saying when they call in is very adequate. I think, When we talk about Cindy Hyde Smith in these elections, you know, people have to stop. And you brought this up before, young man, when you were talking about the water in the show, how folks just starting to get angry about things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got to start listening and stop letting. The way I am, as soon as 5 people tell me not to listen to somebody, I research that person quicker than I would have. Because that means you're invested. It may be for a good reason, right? That person may be dangerous. But that means all of those people are invested in this person not succeeding. Why? That's the only way you give God any due diligence for the creation that he may call you. Is by taking that most powerful muscle in your body in between your ears that he labored over to make sure you were separate from every mammal and animal that exists. And you sitting there just following along because grandma said they good. And I'm saying that somebody whose grandma couldn't tell me they were good. I need to think this through. The fact you telling me what to think in the first place is causing me to be cautious. That's what we got to get to, because that Northside Sun article would have previewed everything we're seeing here, and that Donald Trump newspaper that he took out 20 years ago, and those comments he said, if I ever run, I'm going to run Republican, essentially just saying you can convince these folks that anything's going on with fear. A lot of writing on the wall would have told us just where we were going. So both locally and nationally, as we start to expand this picture that we discussed, because gas prices affect all of you all listening to us.
Yep.
That's not something we can ignore. Who is in the national office affects all of us, but we can't ignore the fact that Jackson, Mississippi has its own little beautiful bill. We're at the point where that can no longer be denied. Go look at Donald Trump's big beautiful bill and go look at what's happening in Jackson from an ordinance, policy, and collaboration perspective from this administration in full. And that's why that 601-948-5950 number has stopped ringing completely with people saying, no, you're wrong. These are the policies that are being made and the decisions that are being made that positively affect the city. Because no African American, at least, will have the nerve to show their number and call in and say that. And I'm not even going to tell you if you do, and I'm going to still let you talk. But you won't do it. You'll do drive-bys. Hey, why don't y'all run for office? Click. That's the most you get now.
Drive-bys.
You just do a drive-by now. You don't want to engage us anymore because you feel dirty engaging us when we're being transparent and only asking for honesty and for fairness to our people. You don't have to like my voice to appreciate me asking for your child to be okay. And understand what they do to one, they do to all. That's why that analogy of us all just pushing down to one point at one time is the most important thing in the world. And this bridge that we keep seeing pop up between the generations is something that we're going to have to get a grip on at some point. And I talked about it yesterday when I was talking about the difference in the realities that the youth under 30 have faced with life, realities, sexuality, drugs that are available, the way they're treated by authorities, the way they're treated by police. If we're not going to understand the differences that they face in the first place, then shut your mouth, because you're hurting my 6 children. There's a group, I mentioned them yesterday, JXNology, whose leader Gus is looking at doing. They do a lot of different pilots, but they look at always trying to bring together older folks and younger folks across every walk of life in our community to have the conversation, to understand how to respect each other. And the sister that called in and said, the only way we're going to do this is with unity. Those are the type of people that understand judgment is not needed. There's people trying to remove you from the actual picture. You don't judge, you understand, and then affect the change you want to affect. If you don't like something you see in our society, figure out why it's like that. Talk to the youth, talk to your children, understand why they've come to that conclusion. And only one of 2 things are going to happen when you take the time to do that. Either you're going to see their point and back off a little bit, or you're going to be able to effectively let them see why that's the wrong thing to do. And let me tell you something. I talk to young people all the time. And my son was headed to Starksville for an event, right? And he said, well, we're going to stay tonight, Dad. And I said, why you want to engage them folks longer than you have to, right? And that's just me. That's just a father, right? And my son, kudos to my son, Kasim. He's just the student government, he's chief justice there too. He's doing great things. I don't think anything he's going to do wrong. But I said to him after I went back and forth 2 or 3 times, I said, you know what, son, I don't do that. You do it. You're going to make the decision, son. I'm just going to explain to you some of the ramifications that can come with it. I'm just going to let you know what can go wrong. And you decide if staying the night at a party equals. You get what I mean? That's responsible leadership. But no one's doing this for our children right now. No one is getting in front of our children from a political or leadership standpoint. They're just punching down on them. No one is looking at the powers that be. that are turning Jackson and the full Mississippi into a pool of labor so that the pick-me businesses that run Mississippi's economy can choose the labor that they want because they don't know how to interact with the Black community. They don't know how to oversee the Black community. They don't know how to manage the Black community. So they're looking for the straw bosses that can help them pull this labor in and accelerate Mississippi with personnel like Ms. Northington, who came from Mississippi Economic Council as a solid partner. And I know she's left that organization. But if you look back and understand that the Accelerate Mississippi, which is staged to take the gains of these young people working, they were the baby to me of Mississippi Economic Council. No more do we let circumstances just look like circumstances. We understand when a push is coming to put our children in the working class and allow the upper class levels of this society here in Mississippi, whether it's the white population, whether it's the Indian population, or whether it's any other immigrant level population, to take a place where we sit at. And that is in no way a racial statement, and don't you ever be weak enough as a Black man or woman to allow anyone to tell you that that is. When you see systemic moves to let other folks step into avenues that our ancestors died for without giving us a shot to get a crack at that, then you call that out, or you're the coward that's blocking our progress. There's a lot of cowards blocking our progress, but to my sister's point, very few of them are where we're pointing all the time. Some of them are sitting right amongst us, eating good, belly growing, telling us jokes, and attacking everybody that they think is going to stop them from getting that payday. And you just sit by and let them attack him. So you stop complaining about what's happening when you do that. You shut up when that happens. You sit by and allow the value of your land to go down. You allow the violence to rise. You allow the gun shows to come, and you don't say anything because you didn't have anything to say when folks was in the parking lot calling these racist senators and these racist politicians to take down the former administration or any administration before them. You opened the cracks on us. You remember when Trey Lamar was at HB 1020 and he was standing up there waving that piece of paper saying, "Stop acting like I'm taking over Jackson." Y'all the ones that called me in. Who wrote that letter to Trey Lamar that said, "Come on, bring all that capital and take our courts over"? That was a Black person, most likely a politician from Jackson, Mississippi, that wrote that letter to him. See, what folks want us to do is get all chummy when elections roll around and forget what happened. Well, you be a fool voluntarily. I won't be. I'd rather those other options. The ones you don't want. Maybe I have to take Lyft for a little while to get another car, right? Because I'm not going to get the gimmies that you get. And I'm saying that from knowledge, experience, and you go on and call me on that. Maybe I won't get the gimmies you get. Life will be a little harder for me and my children and my wife. That's fine, because you know what you're doing. You know when you're in those circles where you see people saying, and then you say things to me like, "Man, that's my friend. He always been that way." You fool. So if you see someone raping a girl, that's what you're going to say to me? "Man, he always liked to rape girls, man. You know how he is. You coward. You are a coward to have a friend that you know do that." Now he's in a political position, most likely doing it, and you done kept your mouth shut the whole time. These folks in the city of Jackson just doing what they want, and y'all know it, but don't know and say nothing. You know my saying, KP. Call us. Go get yourself 13 towels and put it over the phone. "Hello, I'll let the call through." Yeah, you block your number. And I promise you, tie a message to the bottom of a pigeon or one of them stray dogs in Jackson. Let's just run around. I'll look for every stray dog with something tied to his ankle. And I swear to you, I'm not lying. Whichever way you feel comfortable getting information about what these people inside of our house are doing to ensure this house doesn't grow for anybody but them. Let new condos get built in their wealthy Black community. Let their churches get built up. Let them go on NAACP and be on TV every time. And let's keep you Negroes out of sight, because we don't plan to give you nothing. In real life, you really embarrass us every time the conversation comes up. Every time we spread outside of Jackson, we love to talk about how Jackson could be wonderful if it wasn't for you. You know it and I know it. I just hear them because they're comfortable too often thinking I feel the same way just because of a suit I have on or because of a position next to my name. Good. Keep feeling comfortable. You probably won't now, but I'm on the air saying it. But yeah, that's the way we want to land at the end of this week. We're turning a corner, and this corner we're turning is into political accountability, not into any level of destruction. Don't you ever let somebody tell you we want to destroy the vote. We love the vote so much so we keep pulling into your vision your people, your ancestors that bled for the vote. They got their hips replaced for the vote. They got beat upside the head for the vote. And now you got Negroes that get your vote and know they ain't got to do nothing but say the right thing and then go on to that little retreat and sit with their white counterparts that they worked across the aisle with, enjoy their hunting trips, enjoy their hunting dogs, enjoy all of the facilities that are available to them, because they don't have to worry, like the 1967 leaders, they don't have to worry about being beaten themselves. That's where the vacuum is, guys. Look at the fact that they don't have to deal with the same oppression we have to deal with and start pulling those people back into our areas. If they don't have a direct response to what we're going through, then you start holding them accountable to have one. And if not, light them up, get them out of there. Now that's power, people. Now that's power to the people. Any final words, KP, as we land this plane?
You said a lot there.
I did.
Trying to process
I
it.
did, yeah, brother. I did.
But yeah, for the most part, I'm majority of what you were saying was to hold people accountable, and not just in the sense of you wanting them to understand how you feel, more making them feel the way they should feel.
Yeah, instead, do what they're supposed to do for us. Jump online, make it make sense. Jackson, JXN, YouTube, all our shows are rebroadcasted. For my co-host and myself, Tarek Abdul-Tawwab, and Mr. Wilson, continue to make it make sense, Jackson. We love you. See you next week.
My mama love. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed.